In January 2013, 6 seconds changed the internet.
A tiny app launched quietly, no fanfare, no Super Bowl ad, no celebrity endorsement.
Just a looping, 6-second video clip.
Most people in Silicon Valley laughed at it. Twitter didn't laugh. They paid $30 million to acquire it before it even launched.
3 years later, that same app had 200 million users, had invented an entirely new form of human expression,
and had produced some of the most recognizable creators on the planet.
And then Twitter killed it. But here's the question nobody asks. What happened to those 200 million users? They didn't disappear. They migrated. They carried the format, the culture, and the appetite for short-form video with them, and they handed the blueprint to an app built in Beijing. This is the story of how Twitter accidentally invented TikTok.
To understand Vine, you need to understand the internet of 2012.
YouTube was a giant, but it was slow, desktop fast, and creator-driven. Sharing video on your phone was painful. Instagram had just launched photos. Snapchat was brand new. The smartphone was only 5 years old. 3 CEO founders, Don Hoffman, Russ Super, and Colin Krul, saw a gap. Video was the future, but nobody had cracked mobile native video. Their answer was radical. Hard cap every video at 6 seconds, make it loop infinitely, and strip out every feature that wasn't essential. The constraint wasn't a limitation. It was the product. Twitter acquired Vine in October 2012 for a reported $30 million.
The app hadn't launched yet.
Twitter wanted the technology and the team. What they didn't fully realize was that they were also buying a cultural time bomb, one that was about to go off. Vine launched on January 24, 2013. Within hours, creators discovered something strange. 6 seconds was enough. Comedy writers, dancers, athletes, and weirdos of every kind figured out that constraint breeds creativity. When you only have 6 seconds, every frame has to earn its place. The loop created a rhythm. The rhythm created a format. The format created a culture. Vine introduced the world to creators like King Batch, Lil Pons, Logan Paul, and Zach King, names that would go on to build 9-figure careers.
These weren't celebrities. They were regular people who'd mastered a new language.
By 2015, Vine had 200 million monthly active users. It was the most downloaded free app in the app store.
Its creators were selling out Madison Square Garden for live tours.
Brands were paying Viners 6 figures per post.
The app had become a genuine cultural institution in under 3 years.
Here's where the story turns. In 2015, Vine's top creators, the people responsible for its 200 million users, sent a letter to Twitter. They asked for one thing: financial support, revenue sharing, modest compensation for the content that was driving the platform. Twitter said no, not a polite no, a firm, institutional no. Twitter was bleeding money, distracted by board drama and a revolving door of CEOs. Vine was never a strategic priority. It was an acquisition that sat on a shelf while the parent company struggled to define itself. So the creators left. One by one, then in waves. They went to YouTube, where AdSense actually paid. They went to Instagram, where Facebook was aggressively courting them with money and features. The audience followed because audiences follow creators, not platforms. Vine's daily active users began collapsing, not because the app got worse, because the people who made it worth watching were being paid to be somewhere else. In October 2016, exactly 4 years after the acquisition, Twitter announced Vine would shut down. The reaction was seismic. Millions of users, a generation of creators, and an entire aesthetic vocabulary evaporated almost overnight. Vine's archive was saved barely, after a public outcry, but the community was gone, and the creators, they scattered. Many went to YouTube, some went to Instagram, some simply burned out, but the format, the short, looping, mobile-first video that survived, it had to. Hundreds of millions of people had been trained to consume content that way. The demand didn't disappear just because the supply did.
Before the shutdown, Twitter made desperate moves. They raised the video limit to 140 seconds. They introduced monetization experiments.
They tried to revamp the interface. None of it worked. You cannot fix a creator exodus by changing a feature. Trust, once broken, does not come back because you adjusted a setting. The community wasn't angry about the product. They were gone because the economics never made sense. In September 2016, 1 month before Vine's shutdown, a Chinese company called ByteDance launched an app called Douyin in China. A year later, it launched internationally as TikTok. TikTok didn't invent the short-form video.
Vine invented the short-form video.
ByteDance simply studied what Twitter refused to value and built a business model around it.
They paid creators. They built algorithmic discovery that didn't require a follower base to go viral.
They gave new users a reason to stay. The numbers are staggering. TikTok crossed 1 billion users in 2021, roughly 5 times Vine's peak, and is now valued at over 200 billion. ByteDance is one of the most valuable private companies in history. Twitter paid $30 million for the blueprint.
ByteDance used the blueprint to build an empire.
1. Creators are the product,
Not the technology, not the interface.
not the algorithm.
When you stop paying the people who generate value, you don't have a platform, you have an empty room.
2. Constraints create culture.
Vine's 6-second limit wasn't a bug. It was the identity. When Twitter tried to fix it by loosening the constraint, they dissolved the very thing that made Vine irreplaceable.
3. Audiences are portable.
Users don't stay loyal to platforms. They stay loyal to creators. Whichever platform respects creators wins the users by default.
Here's the uncomfortable question we should sit with. Right now, creators on YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok are having the same conversations Vine creators had in 2015.
Platform algorithm changes, declining payouts, opaque content policies.
History doesn't repeat, but it does rhyme.
The next Vine could already be happening. The question is which platform is listening.
If this story taught you something, share it with a creator you know.
They need to hear it more than anyone. And if you want to understand how the next generation of social media is being built on the same mistakes nobody learned from, subscribe. That video is coming soon.